Waking the Tiger by Mark Wightman. Narrated by Adrian Hobart. Singapore, 1939.
Chapter 1. The driver, a stout Malay named Awang, brought the long-nosed police car to a halt. He parked alongside the dockyard wall, where a dilapidated outbuilding, cobbled together from corrugated asbestos sheets and salt-rusted iron straps, provided shade from the equatorial sun. Whenever Inspector Maximo Betancourt, late of the Singapore CID and now the lone member of the recently formed Special Investigations Unit of the Marine Branch, had reason to commandeer a pool car, he travelled in the front with the driver. This was no grand gesture of solidarity. It was simply that sitting in the back made him carsick. But to his European colleagues, his habit was one more piece of evidence that despite his marriage, he wasn't, and never would be, one of them. Not that they paid him much attention any longer. His detective branch days belonged to a fast-receding past, and his work, such as it was now to be found here, on the Singapore waterfront. He threw open the door, a little too exuberantly, as it turned out, and a crunch of metal on stone told him he'd hit the wall. He squirmed through the gap until enough of his body protruded from the car that he could free his hands and haul himself the rest of the way out. He examined the door. The damage to His Majesty's property could have been worse, but the scratches to the paint meant yet more paperwork. He sighed and leaned in through the window. Nicely parked. Awang nodded, accepting the compliment as his due.
Not for the first time, Betancourt reflected with regret on how his command of the Malay language didn't lend itself well to sarcasm. At least his English had that going for it. Ahead of him, a ship swayed lazily in the tide that lapped up against the sea wall. Her name was the Batavian Princess, and the hawsers, thick as a man's arm, that held her fast in the dock, creaked in protest. "Free me!" she seemed to cry. "I don't belong here. I should be out there at sea, not tied to this God-forsaken piece of land." He knew how she felt. He dragged his attention back to the reason for his visit. A noisy crowd of men carrying crudely painted placards and shouting slogans had gathered by the bow of the ship. Half an hour previously, he'd received a call to alert him that another confrontation had broken out. Protests like this had become commonplace in the 6 months Betancourt had been working the docks. Earlier that year, the colonial government had placed...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?